Taylor Yates here with Daily Esports. Recently, we had the opportunity to sit down with SypherPK to discuss his career, where it began, his experience within the Fortnite World Cup, and much more. Uh, Take a listen, see what he has to say, and learn more about SypherPK. So, who are you, and how would you describe yourself to someone that's never seen the stream before?
Well, I go by SypherPK, and if somebody were to ask me what I do, usually I say professional gaming broadcaster. I guess you could also say I'm a professional video game player because I do compete professionally in Fortnite and some of the other games that I've played in the past. But my main occupation, I guess, would just be a professional gaming entertainer. I live stream gaming and I make videos, and pretty much all my social media revolves around gaming entertainment.
Okay, awesome. And where are you from,
So
generally
I'm
speaking?
from Austin, Texas. I've been here my entire life. I've never really lived anywhere else. So ATX, born
Okay,
and raised.
awesome. And so, where did Cypher first start gaming? What was the first video game you played?
So I actually, okay, I used to play on the computer and I used to get on those websites like Miniclip. And that's where I found RuneScape. At the time, Miniclip was hosting RuneScape, or it linked to RuneScape. So I started off gaming like that, and I was playing RuneScape all the way back in 2004, 2003. And I around the same time I got my first console, which was a PlayStation 2. Because up until then, I was just playing computer games. I got the
Okay.
PlayStation 2. Um, I started gaming some on some RPGs like Dark Souls, not Dark Souls, Dark Clouds. Dark Cloud. That was one of the games back in the day that I used to play. Duke Nukem was one of my first shooters, and eventually I just started, focusing on more PC stuff because I was playing a lot of RuneScape back in the day, and everyone at school was playing RuneScape. So I was pretty much playing MMOs up until Halo 3 came out. I got an Xbox 360, started playing Halo 3. Halo 3 was my first FPS. Um, and as I started to finish out school, it was a lot of Halo, a lot of RuneScape. I started getting into the Elder Scrolls Online, which came out around my junior year, senior year of high school. And that's really, I was making content with RuneScape. I used to make YouTube videos, but when I really started taking gaming seriously was when Elder Scrolls came out. Elder Scrolls Online came out. I really dove hard into that. I was trying to be really good at it, master the game in and out. And I was that guy that people used to go to find out what build they should use for that game. And that's really when I started realizing that I can be pretty good at a video game if I put enough time into it.
Okay, that's cool, man. And so did you always aspire to be a professional gamer there?
Yeah, actually, so since sixth grade, I wanted to be a YouTuber, like a gaming YouTuber. It's been a dream of mine since I was really, really young. I started learning how to edit YouTube videos in middle school for school projects. A lot of times, instead of like making a poster to present to class, you could make a video, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I was I was the only person in my class to do that. I started making videos for school projects instead of making posters. So I started learning how to edit videos, and then I took my passion of creating videos and my passion of gaming, and I started making gaming videos, and then I started my YouTube channel in 2011, and I was making the RuneScape content at the time, and that's kind of where it all started when it came to realizing that I wanted to do this, that I had a passion for this. And I knew it was always possible to turn into a career because even at the time, there were some people who were just finally getting into that zone where they were, you know, YouTube and creating, video content for gaming was their career path. And I wanted to go down the same path since a very, very young age.
Great. And did you see yourself at the point you are now, 10 years ago, 5 years ago?
No, not even close. I had like dreams of like where I would be after putting in a lot of years of work into this. But to be honest with you, it was never even close to what we've achieved and what we're at right now. Like I always thought it would be like a fraction, and I was super happy with just if I was to have a fraction of what I have right now, I would have been very very happy and felt accomplished. I never imagined it would get to this point. Like this was more of like just like I always thought like this would this would be like me as a kid wanting to join the NBA. Like, yeah, I really like basketball and I played a lot of basketball and I got really good at it. But what would I join the NBA? In the back of my mind, probably not. And reaching this point to me was kind of similar. I didn't think it would get to this level that we're at right now, and it's still growing and expanding, which is amazing. But I think that isn't really so much. Obviously, I put in a lot of work into it, but I think the gaming scene has just exploded tremendously in the past few years to even allow this level of growth to happen. It wouldn't have happened if, as a whole, gaming and gaming entertainment hasn't just evolved and grown so much over the past 5 years.
Right. And you're currently playing Fortnite now, which is part of that explosion.
Of course.
So when did you start playing Fortnite?
I started playing Fortnite only a couple weeks after the Battle Royale version came out. A few of my subscribers were asking me to try it out. I've tried previous Battle Royales before. I wasn't very good at them. I also didn't put a lot of time into them. But something about Fortnite was a little bit different for me, which was the building aspect, which, I wasn't always the most talented when it came to FPS. My aim wasn't the most accurate because I played a lot of MMORPGs and I didn't really, even when I played first-person shooters, I was always playing with a controller. So Fortnite was one of the first games that I really started taking seriously. That was a shooter. It's not an FPS, but it was a shooter, and I was using the mouse and keyboard. So I wasn't always really good at, excelling in like PUBG or H1Z1. But with Fortnite, my ability to master building kind of masked a little bit of the lack of experience in shooters. And I've been playing it it's going to be 2 years in about 4 months, and I've improved tremendously as well as gotten a lot more accurate. So I think the building aspect is what really got me into it. And I was playing since pretty much like a week after Battle Royale launched.
Okay, cool. I think you and Ranger proved last night that you guys are no joke. So,
Oh yeah.
Really put on a good show, and it was impressive to watch. Um, and on that note, what made you want to start competing in the World Cup?
So a lot of it was hearing people doubt me and just reading comments about people who, saw me as a great content creator. And I made a lot of, funny, entertaining Fortnite content. A lot of people thought I couldn't hang with the pros and I wasn't good enough to compete at that level. So, I don't let negative comments get to me, but I do see a lot of the times when I see some of the negative comments, I take them as a challenge. A lot of people thought I couldn't even come close to qualifying for the World Cup or place in the top 10 or even top 100, depending on what region I'm competing in. So I wanted to prove to myself and also to prove to others that I do have what it takes. So, in the past 2 months, I've been going really hardcore in the World Cup. Prior to that, and I don't really have a lot of practice or scrim experience or like focused practice when I'm just focusing on competitive Fortnite, because what I tell people a lot of times is that, the regular Fortnite that most people play is a completely different ball game than competitive Fortnite because the style of play is different. You're playing a lot more tactical, and you got to be a lot more calculated, more passive at times, know when to play aggressive. While when you're playing regular Fortnite, you can kind of get away with a lot of different stuff. And right. I played a lot of public games on Fortnite and gotten really good at that style of Fortnite, which is why I did well in the Fortnite Fridays and even did well in the previous Fortnite Friday that they brought back. But when it came to competitive, I didn't really have a lot of experience, and I was lacking that knowledge and that game sense that a lot of the pros who have been scrimming and practicing for over a year have. But I was able to watch some of the great players out there who have the experience and kind of learn from them. And over the past couple of months, every single week we've been improving, and every single week our rankings have gone higher in the World Cup. And that all stemmed from me just wanting to prove people wrong and prove that I can compete at this level.
That's awesome. Letting the haters motivate you as opposed to put you down. It's cool to hear. And you talked a little bit about the training there. What does the training and the practice entail for you?
So one thing I started doing a few months ago is I would start every single stream with about 20 to 30 minutes of me running a creative building, editing, and aiming course. So I would start the stream, and before I even really talk to the chat, I would just like they would be watching me warm up. So I used to not do this, and it actually has improved my core mechanics tremendously since I started doing it. My editing is a lot more smooth. My aiming is a little bit more accurate. My building skills is a lot more refined. And all that was is just like 15 to 20 minutes every single day. I'll hop in creative. People create all different types of warm up and training maps. You can find them if you Google search. I'll master one and I'll find a new one and start practicing that one. And each one is a little bit different. Some of them are going to be more heavily focused on your editing skills. Some of them are building, and some of them are purely aiming. And I do those every single day, and I just keep my skills kind of like refined and sharp, and also improve on some of the things that I'm lacking. My editing used to be pretty good back in the day, but eventually people started getting really, really fast with their editing, and I kind of fell behind. And some of these edit courses have helped me catch back up in terms of speed and consistency of editing under pressure. So that was like the first part of it. The second part was I started doing a lot more arena practice and doing custom game scrims where we're focusing on recreating like competitive environments where there is a lot of people alive in the late game. Instead of having like 5 to 10 players alive in the final few circles, like a regular game, you're going to have 30 or more players alive. So we recreate that experience with some other players who are also trying to practice and do a lot of that. On top of that, playing arena has been a little bit of help as well, because you get the siphon experience and you go against some higher tier players as opposed to just playing pub games and going against anybody you run into.
Okay, cool. Is there anything you wish you knew before you began competing?
Yeah, I guess I wish I had known how fast I would be able to catch up to get to this level, because a big part of me not really giving competitive Fortnite too much of a chance was that I felt like I was very far behind a lot of the pro players who have been practicing for over a year. I knew I was always really good and I was mechanically skilled, but I didn't have necessarily the game sense in a competitive environment that some of these players had. And if I had known that I would, in just a short couple months that I've been focusing on competitive, that I would get this close to qualifying for the World Cup, I might have started that process of trying to, be a more competitively skilled player a little bit sooner. That way, I'm not coming this close to qualifying in week 8 and then only having week 9 left, because week 10 I'm going to be at the Pro AM. So, but I do know that at the very least I did start, and there is going to be a lot more competitions this year and next year. So I'm really excited to see just how far I can take and how dominant I could become in the competitive scene.
Of course, I'll be rooting for you as well. And now you play with WBG Ranger. How did you guys meet and get together?
Yeah, so a lot of people ask that primarily because Ranger, at the time, he was a very small streamer when we first started playing together. And he's still comparatively right now, he's not as known. So some people are like, how does Ranger get Cypher to play with him? When in reality, I've known about Ranger for a while. And when I was looking for a partner to play with, I wanted someone who was committed, someone who had the hours put in, who had the grind put in. Ranger had and currently has the most wins on PC. So this guy is a grinder. He plays all the time. He does long streams. He's done well in the pop-up cups. So, and I've known about him since he was part of the community for a bit. So when I was looking for a duo partner, I wanted someone committed and someone who is willing to improve with me, and he was the perfect fit. So we started practicing. It started off a little bit rough. Our communication wasn't that great, but I also don't have a lot of experience in team-based environments for competitive. But as you can see in our last 2 weeks, the last week, week 7, or not week 7, week 6, we finished in the top 15, and then week 8 we finished in the top 4, which is incredible improvement. Every single week we've been improving. So we just I just knew about him, and I know he has the most wins on PC, so I know he puts a lot of time into the game, and he was willing to improve and adapt, and so was I, and we clicked up, and who knows? We might become one of the most dominant duos out there. Just give us a little bit more time to just melt together.
And was there a moment when you guys were playing together that you're like, all right, we have it together. I feel confident in us playing as a team, or has it kind of just every time you play together, it's a little bit better? Um, was there that specific moment that you could point out?
Yeah, so actually, week 4 during the semifinals, we finished with about 94 points. It was in the top 10 of the semifinals, and just seeing how we were playing at the time, we were playing so dominantly, but also like just very smooth and not a lot of hitches between us, and our coordination was on point. And also, we both have a very similar play style. We both love box editing and getting into box fights and whatnot. So our play styles kind of mesh well together. But part of it was seeing that every single week we were improving and we were doing better. But just having that pop off moment where we finished in the top 10 during one of the World Cup qualifiers really like showed that yeah, we're not even close to our true potential, and we were able to pop off and finish in the top 10 this early on. I know for a fact that if we keep going, we'll have a shot at this.
Of course. And there's a lot of good players out there too. You guys aren't the only ones grinding, so
Of course.
um, like I like to compare it to other professional sports. The other guys get paid too, so um, you guys keep working at it. I'm sure you'll get where you want to be.
Yep.
And then in general here, what's been your favorite experience so far within Fortnite and then within gaming in a larger sense?
Honestly, the Pro AM last year for Fortnite was one of the best experiences ever, because it was the first time it was the first time I really met my Fortnite fans, or just my fans in general, just because prior to Fortnite, I wouldn't really get recognized going out in public. It was the first time I was able to meet a lot of the people behind the screen and behind the chat in person. And honestly, like that whole experience, like it made me feel like for lack of a better word, but it made me feel like a rock star in a sense. Like this was like this huge event that they were having, and there was fans screaming at their favorite streamers and Fortnite players, and there was these celebrities who like are like supposedly supposed to be more well known than us, who were like almost not as like they weren't getting as much attention. Everyone was like, oh my god, these Fortnite players. So like obviously the environment called for the Fortnite players to shine, but it was just a really cool experience. And I'll never forget how I felt during that. It was like all the year of grinding leading up to that moment, all the hours put into the stream and into improving my Fortnite gameplay and just creating Fortnite content. It felt like it was paying off. Like what I was doing was worth it.
Cool. So the culmination of all your hard work kind of showing in one spot, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, you kind of touched on this, but what do you think, or what do you have to say to people who think you can't be both a content creator and a gamer?
Well, so here's the thing. It's very difficult to be both a content creator and a gamer. At the end of the day, you're always going to have to make some sacrifices here and there, whether it's skipping out on certain sponsorship opportunities, or whether it's not practicing as much so that you can do the streams that you want to do. Um, but it's been proven already that there are some content creators out there. Tifu being a good example. Ninja just recently getting into the competitive scene and really, really shining, nearly qualifying for the World Cup as well. That you can put the time into being a content creator, and you can also put the time into being a competitive player. Now, you might not end up being the best at both, but you can be pretty darn good at both of them. You just have to balance your time, just like anything else, and just like how someone can be, getting their degree while working a job and providing for themselves. Like you can multitask as a person, and just like that, you just got to multitask and be willing to put in more hours and cut back on maybe some of the sleep, some of the leisure time, some of the show watching time, so that you can be one of the best at both content creation and professional, competition. It is difficult though, and I think at the end of the day, the best content creators are going to be just purely focused on content creation, and the best professional players are going to be purely focused on being a professional player.
Awesome. All right, I got a few more questions here, then I'll let you go. Um, what do you like to do outside gaming? Is there anything you spend your free time doing?
Yeah, so I have 3 dogs. I love taking them to the dog park and spending time with them. I also love watching movies. We pretty much go to the theater every single week. It's just become like a tradition. Me and my wife go out and we just watch any movie that's showing. And um, besides that, as far as like sports are concerned, I'm a pretty big basketball fan. I used to play basketball for 4 years in high school, so I still play sometimes every once in a while, and I'll watch the games and keep up with that. Um, but it's kind of hard to like really have other hobbies or activities that I mean, I enjoy doing these activities, but I don't put a lot of time into enjoying them because I rarely do have the time to spend doing other activities. But whenever I do, yeah, a little bit of spending time with the dogs, taking them out to the park, watching movies, and sometimes playing basketball or watching basketball.
All right. Who you got, Warriors or Raptors?
Raptors. I'm just like, I'm not a Raptors fan, but we need something different. It's
I
getting a little
know,
stale.
man. I
Yeah.
know. It's been too long.
Yep.
Um, and I know a couple of months ago you started really focusing on your health and working out. What sparked that, and how's that going?
So first year of Fortnite plus first year of marriage, I ended up putting on like 50 pounds. So I was like the heaviest I ever was, and I didn't, I'm pretty confident about how I look, regardless of the extra weight. I wasn't too worried about it. But for me, mainly it was just about the health factors. I didn't want this to get out of hand and for me to have health problems down the line. So a big part of it was just, I'm still very young, and I still have a lot of years ahead of me, hopefully. So I didn't want to like cripple myself with extra weight and all the health problems that can come with it so early on, while I still have so many things that I want to see and accomplish. So I started taking that a lot more seriously. I started taking my health a lot more seriously. I've lost 20 pounds so far in a very short period of time, which I'm really proud of. And there's still a few more pounds that I need to put off. But for me, it's mainly just like a change of lifestyle, not ordering in as much, which in return has also saved us money because eating at home instead of pulling up Uber Eats and DoorDash to deliver me food. Um, Also, I see myself as somewhat of a role model to a lot of these younger kids and the people who are watching as well. So I kind of want to set an example that, even if you go off track and, your health or you're out of shape, it doesn't mean you can't stop and kind of try to get back into a more healthy lifestyle. And showing that it's possible, even though I play video games all day and sit on a chair, is another way to kind of motivate people.
Congratulations, man.
Thank
You
you.
definitely are a role model to a lot of people, so um,
I
probably
appreciate
means a lot to show that you can be healthy and play video games at the same time. Um, on a similar note, I'm sure everyone thinks that your job's super easy, being a gamer, being a streamer. There's no challenges, there's no difficult parts, but likely there is some difficult parts of your job. But what are the biggest challenges that you face?
So yeah, there's definitely the challenges. I will say that at the end of the day, it is my dream job, and I love doing what I do. However, it does require some sacrifice and a lot of time commitment. One of the biggest things for me is that um, in the space that we're in right now, in the entertainment space, being live or present all the time, whether it's through social media or Twitch or YouTube, is kind of important to maintain the momentum and to maintain some of the relevancy that you've built up. Um, Anytime I take time off, I instantly see a hit, in subscriber count, in average viewership, and then eventually it builds back up. But you do have to build it back up by putting in even more time into like when I return from a trip, if I'm gone for a few days, I'll bust out 10, 12-hour streams every single day the week I'm back, because I know that's kind of necessary to kind of recover some of the lost momentum that I lost while I was gone. So I'm not able to take as many days off. I think I started taking Mondays off just very recently, but prior to the past few months, I used to just stream every single day. But taking Monday off has definitely helped with my mental health and just my overall energy on stream. Another part of it is that there are no guarantees in this line of work. You could be hot one day and then the next day you're not as hot. And there's not a lot of control that you have. You always want to be innovative and changing, but sometimes you're just not in the trend at the time, and you will take a viewership hit. You will take a hit to your, income per se. But the problem is that it's important as for streamers out there to understand that you just got to put in the work and put in the time, and just leave the rest up, because like there's so many things that are out of your control when it comes to becoming a successful streamer and YouTuber, that if you try to worry about everything, it's just going to give you a headache. You won't feel good about it. So another challenge is that being your own boss means that you're not really held accountable by anybody but yourself. So it's very easy for me to, you know, maybe start my stream late, or not finish a video that I wanted to finish or promised, because it's just like when you only have yourself to hold yourself accountable, it's very easy to allow yourself to make mistakes or to be lazy or slack in some areas.
Okay. And then on the other hand, what's the most fulfilling or the best part of your job?
Honestly, the best part is honestly like seeing people's reactions. I'm really big on looking at the chat. So if I'm playing and I pull off an amazing play or something funny, immediately my eyes goes to the chat. I just want to see what every person has to say, like how they react, and just seeing all the pog champs in the chat after a sick play or whatnot. Seeing people react and have like positive or funny reactions to my work is probably one of the best feelings. It's what I look for. It's like, in a way, that's my feedback to know that I'm doing something right, is seeing the chat and seeing the live reactions of people watching my stream. Another part of it is at the end of the day, I get to kind of control and do what I want when I want. I pick my own hours. I play the games I want to play, and I have a lot of freedom in what I do, which that's amazing. Just being able to wake up one day and be like, hey, today I'm gonna try a new game and just play it out, or maybe today I'm just gonna chill and just talk with the chat, or maybe I'm just gonna take the day off if I need to. So like just having that level of freedom in what I do is amazing.
Okay. So what's next for SypherPK? I know you're going to keep competing in Fortnite. Is there anything else you're working on?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of games coming out this year that I'm going to dabble in and try out. I'm sure there's going to be another big game dropping that's going to take people's attention for a little bit. And I want to be there in the beginning. So I'm going to be, after the World Cup's over, I'm going to be trying out a lot of the new releases that come out, and just trying to expand my audience beyond just Fortnite. We're also going to be launching a clothing brand. So it's going to be a little bit different because it's not going to be necessarily just SypherPK merch, but we're trying to create pretty much like an entire new company of a clothing line with our name associated with it. So that's going to take a lot of work, and there's a lot of behind the scenes going into that, and that'll be interesting. Kind of dipping my foot into a completely different scene when it comes to clothing, as far as compared to entertainment per se. So that's what I got going on this year. A lot of new games coming out. I'll be trying that, launching a clothing brand, and still competing and trying to get better at Fortnite.
Okay. Last question here for you. Is there anything else you'd like to say to your fans about yourself? Anything we didn't cover?
I just want to say I appreciate every single person who has been showing me support, especially during the last 8 weeks of the World Cup qualifiers. I haven't been able to make the same videos that I've been making prior to this, like the educational commentaries or the noob commentaries, just because I've been focusing so much on improving myself as a competitive player, because I wanted to show that I have what it takes, but also kind of give my fans the competitive side of me that a lot of them haven't been able to see up until now. I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support. Thank you guys so much. Whether we qualify or not, I feel like this has been an amazing journey. The improvement has been insane, and just overall the entertainment that I've had personally competing in the World Cup um, has been not comparable to anything else that I've done in Fortnite so far.
Keep grinding, man. We'll be rooting for you. So, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me today. That's all the questions I have for you. Do you have any questions for me before we go?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you so much, Taylor. I appreciate that.